Now, the recent appointment of former SARS official Luther Lebelo as the Director of Communications and Chief of Staff in the Office of the Public Protector has raised some eyebrows. Lebelo worked with former SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane, who is named in the state capture report. He was a public defender of Moyane's policies, which has since been found wanting by the Zondo Commission. So it begs the question, why is Lebelo being given a senior post at another crucial public institution such as the Office of the Public Protector? Even if he has not been found guilty of any misconduct, surely there should be ethical considerations. The Deputy Public Protector, Advocate Kholeka, Gcaleka, joins us now in our studios to discuss this matter further, and others as well, as we look to her role at the Public Protector's Office. Advocate, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time.
Good afternoon, Dan, and good afternoon to the viewers, and thank you for having me in studio.
You're welcome. Now, tell me, let's start with the Luther Lebelo thing. I saw a report that says you've explained it in public on another platform media and justifying that legally, process-wise, there is nothing wrong. Are you still today comfortable with that explanation?
Indeed, I am comfortable with the explanation. There is a recruitment process that took place. Several candidates applied, which included him. There was a shortlist process. There was an interview process. There was a screening process, which is done independently from the panel, which is done by human resources contacting previous employers, which in this case included SARS and communication and digital technologies, wherein he was also an executive there. And HR advised that all the screening had been done and it had come back positive.
Now, if you think about the recent past, and just this is coming on the back of the first part of the report by the Zondo Commission, where the SARS issue also came up, so it's also top of mind now. While all of that might be legitimate, as you're explaining, some people might be wondering, should the Public Protector's Office have thought about the other unintended consequences? People can say, but this man used to publicly defend the former SARS commissioner who's now been found wanting by the Zondo Commission. Should he really be given another opportunity, especially at a Chapter 9 institution? I mean, could there be other considerations around, for instance, ethical leadership for consideration? Did you guys think about that?
Firstly, Dan, let me explain. Mr. Lebelo is employed as a Chief of Staff in the Office of the Public Protector, which is the private office of the institution. And prior to his appointment, he was working for SARS. SARS settled with him. In the settlement agreement, which is in the possession of HR of the Public Protector, it clearly stipulates that this is not a dismissal. It is a departure between the parties, which is amicable. A
separation of ways.
Yes. And he was paid 1.2 million rand by SARS for that separation of ways. Thereafter, he was employed by another government department as an executive in that department. Now the question arises, why then only now is it such a big issue that he is employed?
Because it's not a Department of Communications, if I may come in there, Advocate Gcaleka. It's the Public Protector, and you know the kind of perception that had been there with the current, your boss, let me say so, the current Public Protector facing all kinds of challenges to a fitness to hold office. It's a Chapter 9 institution, and the lessons of the state capture journey or the commission and the inquiry tells us that we need to protect it at all costs. So if people are thinking, there's little door opening of somebody like that, although he was not found guilty of any misconduct and he was paid 1.2 million rand after he separated from SARS and he went to another government department, but it's not a public protector. A public protector should be treated differently or specially looked after.
I fully agree with you, Dan. However, as I say, the vetting processes were done. There was nothing negative found in the vetting process, which was done independently. But more so, Mr. Lebelo is not an executive in the institution of the Public Protector.
But he's a Chief of Staff.
He is the Chief of Staff. He's got no decision making.
But he could influence.
But you've got the public protector, you've got myself. We are independent beings. I make recommendations or take decisions where I need to take decisions independently. There are 2 investigators in the Office of the Public Protector, senior, institutionalized, who've been in the Public Protector for a very long time, and who actually advise on the decisions that the Public Protector takes.
I think from what you've explained from an HR process, a recruitment, nobody's going to fault you on that. But you know, most reputations are not just broken down just because processes. Sometimes it's perceptions and stuff. But this is risky. Why take the risk of bringing in somebody like that, understanding, or maybe you didn't think about it at the time, which would worry me even more if you guys did not consider that possibility of creating the perception, because he gave evidence, he testified, and he was somebody who was defending what was going on at SARS, which subsequently we've learned through the Zondo Commission that not the right things were happening there.
Dan, from the Nugent report, which we had looked at as the Office of the Public Protector, there's no findings against him. There were remarks in the report.
Mr. Lebelo, we'll talk about
yes, Mr. Lebelo. So in that respect, yes, there were remarks made. Firstly, around the issue of the attack on, or his remarks on the rating agencies, and secondly, regarding the affidavit that he had written, you know, regarding whichever work that he was doing at SARS. But there are no findings against him. There are not adverse findings against him. So those are the considerations that the vetting process took. And again, I'm going to repeat, the vetting process is independent of the panel. So the ultimate appointment by the public protector is then informed by the vetting process. And I also just want to reiterate that a recruitment process cannot be taken as a consequence management process by the Office of the Public Protector.
But there should be awareness.
If we wanted to have a consequence management, it should have been done by the department wherein he was at the time when the incident
or by SARS earlier.
And at that time, what this institution did was to have an amicable departure with him. No disciplinary process were taken in respect of a finding, which I say in terms of the report that we have had a look at, there is no finding against him.
Okay. Now, I understand the legal argument, and nobody's going to hold that against you, but it just amazes me that I understand the consequence argument you're making as well, that it could not have been a consideration, at least understanding where the country's at and we've been, and the Office of the Public Protector. What is the role of the Chief of Staff? Just name 3 things that Mr. Lebelo will be doing. You said he's not executive, for example. What would he be doing as a Chief of Staff?
Yes, he's not an executive in the institution, but he heads the private office. So the staff in the private office, who's the PA, the spokesperson, and I think that's where the confusion around Director of Communications come into play, is that the spokesperson, that's the part of the functionaries that he'll be doing contributing to that, but not being the spokesperson. Intake of work that comes into the private office, but which is managed through registry, which is a transparent process within the private office, and transferring documents and providing executive support.
Yeah. You said earlier you understand my concern when I was saying that the Public Protector's Office is not like a department. It's different. It's a Chapter 9 institution. You are second in command. You've been there for 2 years. What can you tell me and our viewers now to assure us that if, for whatever reason, tomorrow, Advocate Busi Mkhwebane is no longer in the post, because she's facing a lot of challenges and she's challenging back. There have been all kinds of processes. I don't want to go into those details. You are likely to step in. As an example, if something happened yesterday, I don't know how the system works, but just from the outside, if you're number 2, you should be stepping in. What can you assure? How can you assure us that the Public Protector's Office is not being used for any political agenda?
From where I am sitting, Dan, I've had an opportunity to act as a public protector when the public protector was on leave. And when I was acting, I actually reintroduced a process which Advocate Thuli Madonsela had during her time, a process of having different senior investigators. Senior is not in terms of rank, but in terms of years of experience, and executives of the institution with the different experiences, where they come together and they scrutinize each and every report that comes through the public protector. So everybody would have a say whether this report is ready to go out, what are the legal issues, have they been properly captured, and so forth. And that is the process that actually influences the decision that I, at the time of acting, took. When Advocate Mkhwebane came back on leave, she actually maintained that process. As it is today, that senior team is in the office. They are scrutinizing the reports that will be presented to the public protector. And on Friday, the full bench is sitting, wherein we've got this think tank of the institution that scrutinizes these reports. So there's sufficient quality assurance that's taking place currently. There's sufficient checks and balances. So one doesn't just sit alone on one's desk, receive a file, and then take a decision.
So there are no questionable political agendas currently that people might think, because of what's been happening, and you've explained it in terms of the employment of Mr. Lebelo, that could be at play currently using the Public Protector's Office?
From where I am sitting, look, I can only speak from my experience
as a deputy,
and from my knowledge as a deputy. There is no way that a singular person can influence that institution at this state now, especially that we have the think tank that is actually the ones that processes these matters before they come before the public.
Capability-wise and capacity-wise and resources-wise, are you guys in a good space currently? Because we always hear budgetary constraints left, right and center in government institutions.
We are not at the space at which we would like to be, but that is why we then have this think tank, that should there have been a gap from the investigator, the senior, our matters start with the investigator, senior investigator, chief investigator, executive manager. We currently have the acting chief operations officer, the CEO, who's got investigative experience extensively, is involved in our matters. And then it again goes to this think tank. So even if a matter would have been missed along the line, at least at this forum is picked up. But also, most importantly, what I want to mention to the public is that when I went into the institution, I did a situational analysis, also looking at the past reports that we've had, the judgments against the public protector. We compiled that and actually did an analysis of that and said, these are the issues that have been identified by the courts. What is causing these particular gaps within our reports, and how do we close those gaps? So we've also retrained the staff, and just before the beginning of this new financial year, we will actually be institutionalizing our training even more, development and learning within the institution. We will be having monthly trainings on areas which we think affect the work that we are doing as an institution.